Welcome to Mindfulness for the Soul, your daily dose of mental health insights, with your host, John Silamparis.
Worry is a fact of life. Despite it being all-consuming and exhausting, we all do it. We obsess, we ruminate, we perseverate, we grind, we spin, we loop. Most of us see worry as a bad thing. We see it as something negative, something we should try to avoid. Over the past 26 years, I've heard many of my patients say to me, if I could just stop worrying for 1 hour or for just one day, my life would be so much better. I would be a happier person. Remember, there's an evolutionary value to worry. It helps us survive. If we didn't worry about things, we probably would have been hit by a car a long time ago. Or we never would have gone to the doctor when we fell sick. Or we'd be terrible at our jobs. Or we'd be reckless and neglectful parents. Worry gives us purpose and helps us focus on things that are important. However, when worry starts to become compulsive, it takes away from being present in our lives. Think about it. There's nothing that we do compulsively that doesn't give us a benefit. We could talk for days about this, but we could never come up with one thing that we do all the time that doesn't give us a benefit. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. Worry is the same. Our mind says, if I worry enough about something, bad things won't happen. If I leave no stone unturned, if I stay vigilant all the time, 24/7, I am safer. So what is the specific benefit that we get from worry? Why do we do it so much? To answer that question, we have to start with the concept of uncertainty. Human beings are very attached to feeling good and very averse to feeling bad. Uncertainty makes us feel bad, really bad. In order to soothe the fear of uncertainty, we engage in thinking patterns that create the illusion of safety. But in the end, they cause us more distress. We're going to take a look at these thinking patterns, also known as cognitive distortions. They are very simple, and if you pay attention to them throughout the day, you will reduce your worry greatly, and ultimately, your stress and anxiety levels will drop. We are learning via science that the brain has a keen ability to adapt and rewire itself, known as neuroplasticity. It suggests that there are provable benefits to exercising the brain. Imagine that your brain is a muscle. As with any muscle, it needs to be exercised as often as possible. So, our constant need to worry is caused by our negative thinking patterns. These thinking patterns are merely unverifiable thoughts disguised as facts. Let me say that again. These thinking patterns are merely unverifiable thoughts disguised as facts. These are the abstracts, so to speak, that create the illusion of safety. The first negative abstract or negative thinking pattern that creates this illusion of safety is an excessive need for control. Trying to achieve absolute control of things in your life is very seductive. We always want to know there are guarantees to everything. We want to know that risks we take will pan out, that our intimate partner won't leave us or betray us, and that we will never get sick, and that we will always have money in the bank. Excessive need for control causes intense stress and worry because when we enlist any kind of control strategy, big or small, and it fails, then our anxiety spikes and we panic. The irony here is in trying to gain control, we feel more out of control, and the worry increases. So, excessive need for control means I don't like uncertainty. In fact, I despise it. It means I'm always looking for guarantees, and I want to know the outcome of everything ahead of time, all the time. The second negative thinking pattern that promotes worry is perfectionism or all or nothing thinking. This is where we experience things in extremes. We see things as all good or all bad. We judge ourselves and other people as right or wrong. We are safe or unsafe. We are smart or stupid. Americans are obsessed with being the best. We always want to be number one. Our perfectionism about appearances, achieving great success in our careers, or getting straight A's in school can set up a false standard of living that can exacerbate existing levels of stress. When we are perfectionistic, we set unrealistic standards for ourselves, which we can never truly measure up to. Perfectionism sets the bar too high and makes us look at life in all or nothing terms. You succeed at 100%, but you fail at 98%. This will cause persistent worry. I always say strive for the best, but be realistic about not always being the best. And when you do fall short of being perfect, make sure you cultivate the gray area of experience. But I will discuss that later on. In other words, be your own philosopher. There is no such thing as failure, only varying degrees of success. Without this philosophy, you will worry incessantly about not being perfect. The third one is people-pleasing, or a reliance on others for approval. Nobody likes to disappoint people, and everybody wants to be liked by everybody. Hence, we hate saying no. In its defense, people-pleasing, like perfectionism, sometimes gets us good results in life and has probably led to a lot of success stories. But a yes person isn't always what it's cracked up to be. People-pleasing, or relying on others for approval, leaves us vulnerable to the moods, whims, and criticisms of others. Plus, you will never feel good about yourself on your terms because you will be a slave of being evaluated by others. If you are so dependent on others' approval of you, your worry will remain the same. So those are the three most important of the cognitive distortions or negative thinking patterns that perpetuate worry. Now, one way to combat these seductive ways of being, because again, they give us a lot of results, is to do a few little mind games. One is try to examine the evidence whenever you are worried about something. Ask yourself, is this a stone cold fact, or is it my interpretation or my opinion about something? They're usually quite different. If it's a stone cold fact, then maybe you have reason to worry. But most of the time, it is an interpretation or an opinion about something. Another motto to say to yourself is, don't believe everything you think. Just because you think something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. We have thoughts that go through our minds all day long, and not all of them are valid. So don't overvalue your thoughts. Another important thing to do is to use the words for now. So, for now, I'm very worried about something. I may not be worried about it later, but for now I am, and I may not be able to figure this thing out today. I also suggest using for now whenever you're feeling good too, because in 5 minutes you may not be feeling good and you'll be disappointed. So for now is an excellent tool to use whenever you are worried. Also, if you are in extreme thinking or all or nothing thinking, as we discussed with perfectionism, we want to try to look for the gray areas. Try to look for the in-between. Try to look for the exceptions. Be aware that worry is going to make you think in extremes, because that's simply what worry does. So if you adopt a 5-minute rule and you pull back each time you start to worry and you try to gain perspective in the ways that I just mentioned, you might reduce your anxiety and you might reduce your worry. It's asking you to be a little bit more reflective and less reactive. Being reflective means I am trusting that there's a process to my worry and that I've been worrying for a reason, which is to try to feel safe and that I can't just snap out of it that easily. Instead of being reactive, which is I jump to conclusions, I catastrophize, and I tend to drive myself crazy throughout the day. So it's basically slowing your mind down and trying to change your inner dialogue from being this knee-jerk, anxious, worrisome dialogue to a more reflective, more balanced, more wise mind dialogue. It's something that one has to practice. And even though I am a psychotherapist, and even though I've been doing this work for a long time, I have to continue doing it all the time myself. And it's important for me to do that because I have to stick to my disciplines. My mind will always want some kind of guarantee, will always want some degree of perfectionism. And otherwise, I become a human doing instead of a human being. I am not allowing myself to live my life and to react to things in a calm and collected way. Remember, these are automatic thoughts, and they've been there for a long time. We are basically teaching ourselves that I can't change the world, but I can change my reaction to the world. If we can keep that in mind, we will worry a lot less about the kinds of things that we worry about. Another example is imagine yourself as a light switch. When your light switch is on, you probably tend to be a lot more anxious and a lot more amped up about things in life. Hence, you might be perfectionistic and you might be in a controlling place. If you turned your switch off, you probably wouldn't get through the day very well because you'd be neglectful and you might even be reckless. So this work is asking you to put in the dimmer switch. Just dim down the excessive worry a little bit and pull back using the 5-minute rule. It's a very, very effective tactic to use. Another thing to remember to do is to breathe while you're doing this. Many people underestimate the power of breathing properly. Breathing properly involves you putting your hand on your stomach and taking a deep breath so that you watch your stomach and your chest rise. When you do that, hold it for about 6 or 7 seconds, and then exhale out of your mouth for 8 seconds. Hold it for 7 seconds and exhale for 8. When you are speaking your affirmations to yourself in your 5-minute rule, try to do the breathing at the same time. It will slow down the worry. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. I hope to have you listen to more in the future. It was good to spend time with you. This is John Silimparis, MFT. Thank you.